In today's video, we're talking about appreciating assets. What we've learned from the past is that people who own assets, especially in periods of high inflation, become very wealthy. That got me thinking about the vast lineup of assets out there. So in this video, I'll go over how 9 different appreciating assets make money and how anyone can invest in them. If you're new here, I'm Sean, and this is the Modest Wallet, where money is made simple. If you'd like to be part of the Modest Wallet community, please subscribe to our channel. It's as simple as that, and you always will know when we release a new video. Back to talking about appreciating assets. So saving money is a great habit. Don't get me wrong, but savings alone are not enough to build wealth over time. The secret to turning thousands into hundreds of thousands, or even millions, is to take those savings and buy a handful of appreciating assets. Now, these are vehicles that either generate a steady stream of cash flow or they increase in value over time. As I go through this list of appreciating assets, as I mentioned earlier, I will be sharing how you can invest and how these assets actually make money. Now, if any one of these appreciating assets makes sense to you or sounds interesting to you, and maybe you're considering investing in them, I will leave links in the description for any of the apps or platforms so you can sign up and start investing yourself. So this list has no specific order to it, but we're gonna start with the no-brainer, stocks and bonds. Let's specifically talk about stocks first. A stock gives the holder ownership over a portion of the business and entitles them to receive any dividends paid by the company throughout its lifetime by owning shares or a fraction of shares. Not only do you receive dividends, otherwise known as payments, throughout the year on those shares, the value of the shares you own can increase over time if the underlying business is actually performing well. Stocks of publicly traded companies can be bought through a brokerage firm. Nowadays, this can be done electronically in a matter of seconds through a variety of websites and apps. There are others, but I'll throw a list of reputable brokerages you can choose to start investing in stocks. The cool thing about investing in stocks is that the capital needed to invest in stocks is not high. A stock portfolio can be built with as little as $100 by using fractional shares. To summarize, stocks can make money for investors through price appreciation and dividends. Bonds are fixed income instruments, so you'll always know how much money you will make. Bonds entitle the holder of them to receive a periodical payment in exchange for loaning money to a company, government, or an institution. These financial assets are typically traded in an exchange like we just mentioned that stocks are traded on. Not only that, but you can also buy bonds from treasurydirect.gov. We have a specific video on our channel about how you go about buying I-bonds. If that's something you might want to consider, then you should definitely check that video out and go to treasurydirect.gov. Second on our list of appreciating assets is real estate. Real estate investments are one of the oldest and most popular appreciating assets in the world. Money can be made in real estate in a variety of ways. Properties can be classified as commercial, residential, and industrial. Land may also be considered real estate. Cool thing is that nowadays, a person doesn't have to necessarily buy an entire property to become a real estate investor. Instead, they can rely on vehicles such as real estate investment trusts, also known as REITs, and crowdfunded real estate projects to own a piece of the underlying property. This reduces the minimum investment required to get exposure to this appreciating asset. Services such as Fundrise, Equity Multiple, Streetwise, CrowdStreet, among several others, are platforms that offer good alternatives when it comes to real estate crowdfunding. For the full list and explanation of these crowdfunding sites or apps, you can go ahead and check out another video that we just released before this one. I'll go ahead and link that video above, and we have links to all of these platforms in the description below, so definitely go ahead and check that out. Continuing with real estate, you can also buy shares of hundreds of different REITs, which are available and can be traded through traditional brokerage firms such as the ones we already mentioned in the first asset class. Just head to any one of those brokerages, platforms, and you can buy them just as you would a stock. Money can be made with real estate in the following ways. Property can be leased in exchange for a periodical rent payment. Property can be remodeled and flipped. This transaction can generate a profit if the selling price exceeds the purchase price minus any money spent on renovations. REITs typically pay a dividend that comes out of the money made by the properties owned by the trust. And finally, a property or shares in a company holding one or more properties may see its value increase over time. Before I forget, I'll also mention that farmland, another form of real estate, can be bought as well. Farmland has become an increasingly appealing, appreciating asset, considering that the global population is on the rise and the demand for food and crops seems to be growing unstoppably as a result. It's actually never been easier to buy farmland with little money down with sites like Farm Together and AcreTrader. If owning farmland is appealing to you, we have included links to those sites in the description below. And also, we did create a video, so I'll put that up here, about farmland investing, and you should go ahead and check that out. Our third appreciating asset are commodities. Some of the most popular commodities are oil, natural gas, gold, silver, copper, livestock, corn, rice, wheat, coffee, cocoa, and soybeans. Commodities can be considered appreciating assets if the demand for these products is expected to rise in the future, or if supply is expected to be disrupted or diminished. In most cases, investors buy commodities through financial vehicles such as ETFs and mutual funds, or by using financial derivatives such as futures and options. Now, these instruments can be bought and sold through a traditional brokerage firm, although the requirements to operate with commodity derivatives may be a bit strict. Just keep in mind, commodities only generate money for investors if their value appreciates over time. The fourth appreciating asset are precious metals, rare earth metals, and jewelry. Precious metals have been considered appreciating assets for centuries, and this is especially the case for those that are used for crafting fine pieces of jewelry such as gold, silver, and platinum. Nowadays, precious metals are considered a commodity as they are used by multiple industries for manufacturing different products. The price of precious metals is driven by supply and demand dynamics. Now, in the past, people had to buy these metals physically and find a way to store them safely. Definitely wasn't easy. Nowadays, investing in these appreciating assets have been made much easier through the introduction of financial vehicles such as exchange-traded funds, as we mentioned, ETFs, that track the price of each metal. These funds, take care of the process of buying and storing the metals on behalf of the investor, and they typically charge a low fee in exchange for doing so. Meanwhile, for those who prefer to own the asset directly, other services such as Bullion Vault offer investors the chance to buy gold, silver, and other similar metals and take care of the storing and protecting the assets in exchange for a relatively modest fee. On the other hand, investors may also opt to buy shares of companies that mine precious metals. Precious metals only generate money for investors if their value appreciates over time. Investing in jewelry is similar to buying precious metals, but with an added value of the artistic work that has been put into the piece that they're working on to make it what it is. Jewelry can be bought from high-end stores, designers, and even at auctions. Their value fluctuates depending on the price of the metals and gems that make the piece and its perceived artistic value. Money can be earned with jewelry if the price of the piece or that of the materials that comprise it rises over time. Now, in some cases, rare jewelry could be leased to museums, galleries, and other similar organizations to be displayed to the public. This is typically the case when the piece has some sort of historical significance. Rare earth elements, also known as Re, are not necessarily scarce, but they are considered hard to find, and deposits tend to be rather small. The demand for these metals has been rising lately as their industrial uses have increased as well. Re's include, and I apologize if I completely butcher or mispronounce these, lanthanum, erbium, samarium, neodymium, and cerium. The consumer electronics industry is one of the biggest buyers of rare earth metals, and they are typically employed to produce chemical reactions. Cerium, as I mentioned, is used to refine oil. Lanthanum is used to create night vision goggles, and samarium is employed to build precision-guided weaponry. Rare earth metals could be a great investment if corporations keep finding practical uses for them. Investors can get exposure to this rather, I'd say, fascinating market by buying future contracts or through exchange-traded funds or ETFs, such as the VanEck Rare Earth Strategic Metals ETF, ticker symbol REMX. Money can be made if the price of these metals increases over time, as the value of the futures contracts for their assets and the valuation of the companies that mine them will rise alongside. Fifth on our list of appreciating assets is a combination of collectibles, rare art, and fine wine. We lumped all three of these together because they are three tangible items that can be invested in with a few clicks of a button. It hasn't always been this way though. Collectibles, rare art, and fine wine have been around for a long time, but their value exists because of the laws of supply and demand. When something is rare or popular, it makes them valuable, and these items do not have to have traditional value to be worth a lot of money. Now, don't get me wrong, there is a fairly large amount of risk when investing in collectibles, rare art, and fine wine. As I mentioned earlier though, it's never been easier to invest in these three assets though, especially online. The collectibles category includes items like toys, cars, weapons, sports cards, comics, and historical items such as letters and pictures. Now, you can buy them at the time the item is released publicly or at a later date at places like trade fairs, garage sales, or online platforms like eBay. There are also platforms like Collectible, Otis, and Rally that allow you to invest in these assets as well. As far as rare art is concerned, this type of investment used to be only for the wealthiest in society due to the complexity of assessing the intrinsic value of art for the untrained eye. With that said though, some companies have democratized access to this market and its appealing returns, as is the case for a company called Masterworks, a firm that securitizes valuable works of art so investors can purchase a fraction of the artwork instead of the entire thing. With pieces of art, money can be made by buying and holding the artwork directly to and then sell it at a profit. The same goes for the fractional shares offered by Masterworks and other similar services. On the other hand, in some specific cases, museums, galleries, and certain institutions may offer some sort of compensation to investors for displaying the pieces they own. Now, when it comes to fine wine, to many, wine is just a drink they like to enjoy with their preferred dish or while gathering with their friends. However, the best wine out there is considered quite valuable, and for those who have a trained eye in this particular field, it can also become an appreciating asset. Investing in fine wine consists of buying and holding top quality bottles or cases with the expectation that their value will rise over time. In the past, investing in wine was quite risky as it required the appropriate storing of the cases, which increases the risk of damage and total loss if the bottles are broke. Nowadays, some companies such as Vinovest and Vint offer the possibility of buying a fraction of a case of a valuable wine instead of the whole thing, and take care of the burden of appraising, authenticating, storing, and selecting the best investable wine. Money can be made with fine wine by holding onto the shares bought via these companies or by buying individual bottles or cases to sell them in the future at a higher price. To summarize, collectibles, artwork, and wine, buying and holding them in hopes of the price increasing over time is how you make money, and you can do this much easier these days through sites that allow you to buy fractions or parts of each asset without having to deal with the risks involved with physically owning them. The sixth appreciating asset is a business. Starting a business or buying an existing one is a way to invest money in an appreciating asset as long as the company eventually generates positive returns on the investment made. A business can produce money through the profits it generates as a result of its regular operations, or if it can be sold at a price that exceeds the amount invested by the shareholders at some point. The odds of building a successful business increases if the founder has an in-depth knowledge about how the industry works or has identified an unresolved problem or maybe unmet need in the marketplace. On the other hand, an existing business could be bought if the investor feels that the company is currently undervalued and could generate above market investment returns for the risk assumed, or if the business can be optimized to the point that it can generate more profits. These days, companies like Mainvest can help retail investors like you and maybe me get access to these investment opportunities. I'll definitely leave a link in the description for you to go ahead and check that out. Seventh on our list of appreciating assets are high yield savings accounts and certificates of deposit, otherwise known as a CD. Let's start with savings accounts. Savings accounts are among the most well-known and used financial instruments in the world. Back when interest rates were meaningfully high in most developed economies, they were the safest place to park some money and watch it grow. However, most savings accounts these days offer a very low interest rate except for some exceptional cases. In the US, the highest yielding savings account at the time this video was recorded are offering annual percentage yields APY of 0.8%. And even though this sounds like nothing compared to the returns produced by other assets in this video, if interest rates in the country increase, these accounts could become more appealing. Money is earned with a savings account via the payment of interest. In most cases, these payments are made nearly every month, and the money in these accounts is protected by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, the FDIC, in the United States. So even though the high yield savings accounts are not the most appealing in terms of returns for now, they are among the safest choices among all appreciating assets. A certificate of deposit, or CD, is an instrument that entitles the holder to receive interest payments for locking up his or her money in an account with a financial institution during a certain period of time. A CD is considered as safe as a savings account, and the most appealing certificates in the US currently yield around 1.25% per year if money is locked in for 1 year. With CDs, interest payments are typically accrued and deposited into the CD, and interest rate is calculated on the daily balance of the instrument. This means that CDs are a good alternative to take advantage of compound interest. Moving on, our eighth appreciating asset to own is cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrencies emerged in 2009, back when an anonymous character, Satoshi Nakamoto, first presented Bitcoin to the world as an innovative peer-to-peer payment system. These digital assets have grown to become a standalone asset class valued at over $2 trillion, and they are now part of many portfolios due to the disruptive nature of the underlying technology that powers the entire ecosystem, the blockchain, and their potential practical uses. Cryptocurrencies can be bought through exchanges such as Gemini, Coinbase, and Binance, among others. I'll definitely leave the links in the description for each of those. Crypto can be stored in a hot or cold wallet. Money can be earned with cryptocurrencies by buying and holding these assets in the expectation that their price will increase in the future as they continue to be adopted as a payment method, store of value, and financial asset. It is also possible to earn interest by staking these digital assets or lending them to other people who can use them for trading and other similar purposes. Our ninth and final appreciating assets include digital assets and NFTs. Starting with NFTs, they can be understood as digital property. These are goods that can be used in the digital realm, and their nature varies widely. They could be a picture, a letter, a tweet, or even a digital identity. These digital assets can be minted on the blockchain, the technology that powers cryptocurrencies, and this gives the holder a certificate of ownership on the original piece, pretty much in the same way that a certificate of authenticity would work by buying a painting, a sports card that's signed, or a sculpture. NFTs are considered appreciating assets if their perceived value increases over time. This has been the case for some NFT projects like the Bored Ape Yacht Club avatars and the so-called CryptoPunks. An investor who has the eye for spotting the most promising projects in this up-and-coming space could make bank once a digital asset gains more popularity. Some NFTs have been sold for millions of dollars. And there's other digital assets. The pandemic undoubtedly accelerated the adoption of digital solutions at many scales, and this has made the digital world an increasingly important space for businesses and individuals alike. As a result, digital properties have been increasing in value lately, and they come in many shapes and forms. One example of digital property is a domain name. For example, owning the domain Tesla.com may have been a good investment before the popular electric vehicle manufacturer came out, as the owner could have sold the domain to the company at a pretty interesting price. That said, there are other more sophisticated digital properties, such as a piece of land in a so-called metaverse, a virtual realm created by a company organization to provide a space in which users can interact with each other and enjoy some interesting experiences. Money can be made with these assets by buying them at a relatively low price in the expectation that they will eventually become a highly demanded asset. Other examples include social media accounts, fully functioning websites, and images. Now, as you just watched, there's a ton of places you can place your money these days, and it's never been more easy to diversify in a variety of them. Now, I'm not a financial advisor, so definitely do your own research before investing your hard-earned cash. But if you do want to actually learn more or actually invest using some of the platforms that we mentioned in this video, I just want to remind you once again that we do have links in our description that will easily take you to those platforms or sites. From there, you can sign up and get started. At The Modest Wallet, money is made simple. Thank you so much for watching this video. We'd love if you'd like this video and subscribe to our channel, and I will see you in the next one.